Good evening, my friends. Welcome, everyone. Today marks my 6th annual speech, and this year also happens to be the 15th anniversary of Xiaomi's founding. On this milestone, Xiaomi has made back-to-back breakthroughs in the automotive and semiconductor fields, leaving many astonished. It may feel as if Xiaomi has suddenly transformed overnight into an entirely different company. But in reality, these changes all stemmed from a profound soul-searching reflection we undertook 5 years ago. 5 years ago, in 2020, Xiaomi celebrated its 10th anniversary. At that time, we had been listed for 2 years, and our annual revenue had surpassed 200 billion renminbi. We had successfully entered the ranks of the Fortune Global 500. In the eyes of many, Xiaomi was already a great success. But inside, I was filled with an indescribable sense of anxiety. Back then, in our industry, giants like Apple, Samsung, and Huawei stood like towering, insurmountable mountains, making it seem nearly impossible to surpass them. Under such circumstances, should we resign ourselves to lying flat and accept our fate, or should we continue fighting? After 10 years of entrepreneurship, many in the team were exhausted, wanting to pause and rest. I completely understood that, because I felt exhausted too. Yet when I thought further, I realized that competition in the next decade would only become more intense. How many people would still be willing to fight alongside me? What made things even more draining was the constant stream of skepticism, criticism, and even attacks online. To be honest, I felt many people truly did not understand Xiaomi, holding on to fixed prejudices against us. I would often see infuriating comments online such as, "Xiaomi is just an assembly factory. Xiaomi has no real technology. Xiaomi relies only on marketing and won't go far," and so on. At that time, I was consumed by severe inner turmoil. After much struggle, I finally made a decision to confront all the problems head-on and find a way to break through, to defy fate itself. Of course, talking about defying fate is easier said than done. At first, I had no idea how to face so many challenges. In hindsight, perhaps I was fortunate. In my childhood, I learned the game of Go, which taught me a very effective method, reviewing the game afterward. Many people misunderstand reviewing. It's not just a summary. It's about answering 3 crucial questions after any event. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? If you could do it again, what would you do differently? Using this method, we embarked on a long and deep review process. Each session usually involved 7 or 8 people, and discussions often lasted 4 to 5 hours. We held 40 to 50 such sessions over about half a year. Through this deep reflection, we clarified our path forward. To continuously invest in fundamental core technologies, to firmly transform from an internet company into a hardcore technology company, and to commit 100 billion renminbi over 5 years into core technology R&D. For context, in 2019 our R&D expenses were 7.5 billion renminbi. So, 100 billion over 5 years was an astronomical figure for Xiaomi at the time. Yet it was precisely by setting this ambitious target that Xiaomi's DNA began to be reshaped. From that moment, technology first became our unshakable iron law, and our passion for entrepreneurship was reignited. In the following 5 years, with an entrepreneurial spirit, we brought in massive amounts of talent and rebuilt our core management team. The change was profound. Just look at our current executive team. Among the original founding members, Lin Bin and Lu De are still fighting alongside me. But of our 12 executives today, 9 are new faces. We aggressively recruited top external talent, including Lu Weibing, Zheng Xuezhong, Wang Xiaoyan, Lin Sherwei, and Lu Wei. Some joined directly as senior executives, while others entered as mid-level managers and gradually grew into executive roles. All of them made major contributions to Xiaomi's development over the past few years. Among them, the one most familiar to everyone is likely Lu Weibing. So let me take this chance to thank President Lu, as well as all the talent and executives we have brought on board. At the same time, we also placed great emphasis on cultivating talent internally. A number of young leaders, who were among Xiaomi's earliest colleagues, gradually rose through over a decade of challenges to become the new generation of leaders in our core team. Let me name just one: Zhu Dan, employee number 54, one of Xiaomi's very first engineers. He built today's Xiaomi chip team and led the team that developed Surge 01. This brings me to the story of our chip business. Xiaomi has long harbored a dream of building chips. As early as 2014, just 4 years after our founding, we established Pinecone Electronics, fully committing to developing our own SoC chips. After 3 years of effort, in 2017, we released our first-generation SoC, which powered the Xiaomi 5C, selling more than 600,000 units that year. On the surface, the performance seemed promising, but deep down I knew Pinecone could not go on. In 2018, we made the painful decision to halt SoC development, downsizing the team to work on smaller chips, just to keep a tiny spark alive. During our major review 5 years ago, anytime the chip topic came up, everyone felt deep pain and lingering fear. I realized that to heal, we had to figure out exactly why Pinecone failed. We spent countless hours researching and step by step uncovered the reasons. One counterintuitive conclusion we reached was this: developing mid to low-end SoCs has no chance at all. Only at the highest end is there even a sliver of hope. Most people might think, with such complex technology, surely you start from the low end. But SoC development is extraordinarily complex. History showed us that both Apple and Huawei entered from the high end. No smartphone company ever succeeded by starting from the low end. Pinecone's fatal mistake was choosing the wrong entry point. Another key factor is that developing chips requires the full support of the smartphone business. Think about it. Why would the smartphone team take on massive risks by using in-house chips when mature external chips were readily available? If an in-house chip failed, the entire phone business could collapse. Without perfectly aligned goals and a spirit of shared risk and reward, the project was doomed. Back then, Pinecone was set up as a subsidiary, relatively independent in management, which made coordination with the phone team extremely difficult. I personally mediated many times, but in the end, I couldn't solve it. Thus, Pinecone's failure became inevitable. Yet chips are unavoidable. Nearly all global tech giants eventually become chip giants. I knew clearly, chips were the only path for Xiaomi's success. But by then, the difficulty had grown far beyond what it was 10 years earlier. Developing a smartphone SoC now requires at least 10 years and 50 billion renminbi. Even then, is success guaranteed? What if we fail? These doubts lingered for a long time, preventing us from making a firm decision. Finally, I encouraged the team. If we don't try, we've already lost. Why not give it a shot? How do we know we can't succeed unless we try? At critical moments, sometimes all you need is a little courage. In early 2021, we restarted our chip journey. Of course, the shadow of Pinecone's failure still haunted many. Every time we met potential partners, we had to go to great lengths to explain ourselves, to rebuild trust. It was extremely challenging just to reassemble a team. By the project's second year, we faced even bigger difficulties. Global economic headwinds and geopolitical tensions severely impacted our business. Revenue dropped sharply, down 15%, and another 3% the following year. In Xiaomi's 15-year history, this was the first time our business had contracted. Even in 2015 and 2016, our most difficult years, we had never seen decline. Meanwhile, each chip or car project required hundreds of billions in investment. The pressure was suffocating. Doubts arose within the team. Would continuing with chips drag the whole company down? Morale wavered. In May 2022, we convened a special executive meeting. The atmosphere was heavy. We all knew this decision was monumental. If we gave up again, Xiaomi might lose chips forever. After abandoning the effort twice, the market would never trust us again. One executive admitted candidly, "From a business perspective, this calculation is impossible to make right now. It can only be judged by the founder." Without hesitation, I posed a question. If we quit now, 10 years later, will we celebrate having hundreds of billions more in the bank, or will we regret that Xiaomi forever lost its chance in chips? I made my stance clear. I firmly supported moving forward. I believed the investment was absolutely worth it. Even in the worst case, if we failed, we would still have built a strong chip R&D team and permanently reshaped Xiaomi's reputation. After thorough discussion, confidence was restored. In May 2023, a shock hit the chip industry. Without warning, a peer company disbanded its 3,000-person chip team overnight. My phone exploded with calls and messages. Would Xiaomi's chip team dissolve too? For a moment, I was stunned. Having experienced Pinecone, I knew firsthand how excruciatingly hard self-developed SoCs are. It's truly a 9 deaths, 1 survival endeavor. But having lost once, this time we had to grit our teeth and persist. To steady the team, I immediately instructed Zhu Dan to hold an all-hands chip meeting. When the notice went out, employees were startled, fearing dissolution. But when Zhu Dan relayed management's unwavering commitment, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and vowed to succeed. By early 2024, our chip project reached tape-out, using the most advanced 3nm process. Just the tape-out fee alone cost about $20 million. On May 22nd last year, our first chip samples arrived. The whole team was ecstatic. They even went to the airport to greet the chips, carrying them back in a simple paper bag, joyful yet understated. That day, I was on a business trip, anxiously checking the team chat every few minutes, waiting for results. Everyone was tense, knowing that if the chip failed, not only would $20 million be wasted, but the entire project would be delayed 6 months, a loss of at least 1 to 2 billion renminbi. Luckily, at 9 p.m. that night, the system finally lit up. The next morning, I received a call from Zhu Dan using the Surge 01 itself. This meant every module had passed testing. Honestly, to succeed with such a complex 3nm flagship chip on the very first tape-out, that was extraordinary. Our team had truly achieved something remarkable. That moment was filled with emotion. Engineers cheered, capturing the memory in video. Zhu Dan, Lei, I have great news. This morning at 5 a.m., all functions passed testing as planned. Me, thank you everyone. Please convey my congratulations to the team. 1 year later, on May 22nd this year, we officially released the Surge 01 and the smartphones powered by it. To everyone's surprise, Xiaomi's very first flagship SoC performed outstandingly, entering the top tier of the market. The phone has now been on sale for 4 months. Here's some user feedback. Before launch, I saw a lot of negativity, but once I used it, it turned out to be a delightful product. Its temperature control is excellent. Even in Beijing's hot summer, it doesn't feel hot to the touch. Not once have I managed to drain the battery fully. I usually still have 20 to 30% left. The overall imaging is even slightly better than the iPhone 15 Pro. In challenging lighting like backlight conditions, it shows significant improvement. I've encountered no compatibility issues. Using it feels no different from older, mature models. Being unnoticeable is actually the highest compliment. It matches the performance of top global chips. At this level, it's a true Wi-Fi warrior. Hopefully, it will become a representative of Chinese chips. My best wish is to see the next model soon, and to discuss it again next year. Did you hear that keyword? Unnoticeable. Compared to other chips, it feels no different. That is, in fact, the highest praise we could receive. Looking back over these 4 years, the hardest part of the Surge 01 project wasn't just the technology, but the journey itself. After the crushing failure of Pinecone, how do you find the courage to stand up again, to restart the project? Failure itself isn't always terrifying. It's the fear in our hearts that is most paralyzing. Overcoming that fear, daring to try again, that was the hardest challenge of all. Of course, the Surge journey has only just begun. The 01 success is just the first step. There is still a long way to go before true victory. I sincerely hope everyone will support us. We ourselves will continue to persevere until the day we succeed. Let me share a small detail. When the project restarted, I suggested naming it Pinecone again, to stand up where we once fell. But everyone firmly opposed. So we gave it a new name, Surge Xuanjia. Its meaning is simple, a solemn promise that Xiaomi is serious about building chips this time. We will commit at least 10 years and at least 50 billion renminbi. Alright, now let's move on to talk about Xiaomi's automotive business and our story at the Nürburgring. In June this year, Xiaomi announced several explosive pieces of news. This is the official Nürburgring lap time ranking of the SU7 Ultra. Where does it stand overall? It's ranked 3rd. That means, among all cars in history, the Ultra as a mass-produced car is ranked 3rd, and it sits at the very top of the global mass-production electric vehicle chart. This news immediately shocked the global automobile industry. Many people were curious. Xiaomi is a smartphone company, so in car manufacturing it should only count as a newcomer, right? How could it possibly come out this strong? The story begins 4 years ago. Let me first introduce someone to you. Akan. Many Mi fans may already know him. He is Xiaomi's chief test driver and head of dynamic performance engineering. He was born in Juji, Zhejiang. He once said there was an auto repair shop next to his home, and he grew up there as a child. The repair tools in that shop were his toys. When he went to college, he spent all day on automotive forums, and after graduation he became a chassis engineer. To excel in chassis work, he even learned racing in his spare time, trained rigorously, and surprisingly won multiple racing championships. This shows you just how deeply obsessed Akin is with cars. For years ago, when Xiaomi announced its entry into car manufacturing, the screen was filled with bullet comments like "Beat Tesla." He and a group of friends watched our launch event together, full of passion and excitement. Later, when one of his colleagues prepared to join Xiaomi, he immediately asked, "Brother, can you take me with you?" To show his determination, he even said, "No matter where Xiaomi builds its cars, I'll move my entire family there." And that's how Xiaomi gathered a large group of ambitious engineers who loved cars and were eager to accomplish something earth-shaking on Xiaomi's platform. Think about it. When we gathered so many excellent engineers, what would we achieve? In September 2021, at Xiaomi Auto's first all-hands meeting, we announced a bold plan to build the world's strongest all-electric performance car. For a newcomer, setting such an audacious goal was truly fearless. To aim for the world's strongest, the challenges were enormous. For example, at that time there were no suitable high-performance electric motors available on the market. What should we do then? Should we cancel the project? No, we gritted our teeth, stomped our feet, and decided to build our own team to make it ourselves. That's how our Xiaomi V8S supermotor was born. This motor was built entirely in our own factory, without using any contract manufacturers. Why? Because if we had used a contract manufacturer, they would later claim the technology as their own. That was unacceptable. So you see why we insisted on doing it ourselves. It was very costly, but after several months of certification, the Ultra project was officially approved. But shortly after the Spring Festival, the project was cancelled. Why? I'm not sure if you remember, but I once said that after the Spring Festival in 2022, we held a very long meeting. At that time, SU7's development had reached a critical moment, while our resources and capabilities were seriously insufficient. We had to make a painful decision to focus on the most critical project. To ensure SU7's success, we had no choice but to cut Ultra. Everyone was silent for a long time after that decision. Nobody expected that just 3 months later, the situation would reverse. The Ultra project was revived. I still remember that May meeting. It was held online and lasted for days. To lighten the mood, I even sent a bottle of red wine to each colleague's home. We drank wine while meeting online. One engineer, tipsy, raised his glass and proposed, "Porsche is my god. Can we build a car that beats Porsche at the Nürburgring?" Honestly, when that crazy idea was voiced, it instantly ignited the entire meeting. Imagine the thrill for a car engineer, driving a car you built yourself on the Nürburgring, overtaking Porsche. Everyone was excited. Given that SU7 had already achieved some breakthroughs, the pressure wasn't as heavy. So we bit the bullet and decided to restart Ultra. When the news was announced, the entire engineering team erupted with joy, and Akin himself jumped with excitement. In such a passionate company, no matter how many obstacles we faced, we were determined to make Ultra succeed. Ultra became the dream-chasing journey of a group of engineers. Of course, difficulties came one after another. Let me tell you one that no one expected. In August 2023, when our project had reached a certain stage, we contacted Nürburgring officials. They responded politely at first, but then there was no follow-up. We sent more than 20 emails with no reply. Our difficulty turned out to be that we wanted to challenge Nürburgring, but they didn't even bother to respond. It wasn't until over 3 months later, right before Christmas, that we received a second email. They finally agreed to host us. So right after New Year's Day, our team flew to Nürburgring. That day was snowy. When we met, we finally understood the reason. Their first question was, why would a Chinese smartphone company come to Nürburgring? They simply couldn't figure it out. They thought we were joking. But when we explained our plans and the Ultra project in detail, Xiaomi's ambition impressed them. Although the track schedule was extremely tight, Nürburgring officials tried their best to arrange something for us. To give you an idea, we applied for track time in early January, but the schedule was booked until early October. Many people don't realize how scarce Nürburgring track time is. First, in winter the track is closed for 5 months. Plus, there are constant races, and nearly all of the world's best carmakers and parts suppliers are testing there. That's how competitive the schedule is. To ensure enough time for good results, we made the costly decision to book 2 consecutive days, October 9th and 10th. We prepared thoroughly, eagerly awaiting Ultra's performance. But on October 9th it rained all day, and our spirits sank. The weather forecast suggested some chance the next day, so we kept our hopes up. On the 10th, I rushed to Nürburgring early in the morning. From 7 a.m., I stood by the track, and it rained all day again. The 2 days we fought so hard to secure were wasted. This is the second difficulty in running Nürburgring: the weather. It's completely at nature's mercy. The rest is history. After countless negotiations and setbacks with Nürburgring officials and global peers, on October 28th we finally got a chance to run one lap. Just one lap, 10 minutes. But in that lap, Ultra as a prototype set a record, showing the world for the first time the true strength of Xiaomi Auto. Looking back, I feel deeply moved. Without the engineers' heartfelt love and persistence, Xiaomi could never have achieved this miracle. With just one lap in a whole year, we created a world record. On April 1st this year, the mass-produced Ultra officially took on Nürburgring. This time, with perfect weather, we used just 4 laps and set 2 stunning records, with only 2 cars. Reviewing these 3 years of hardship, the final results exceeded everyone's imagination. There's a saying online I really like: just focus on your effort and leave the rest to fate. Perhaps the only regret belongs to Akan. Last October, to ensure success, he gave the sole lap opportunity to Nürburgring's local driver David. This year again, unfortunately, he didn't achieve his ideal lap time. As of now, no Chinese driver's name is on Nürburgring's official lap chart. But he believes one day he will write his own name there, earning respect with strength. Xiaomi's achievements at Nürburgring are quietly changing the global auto industry's perception of Chinese cars. Xiaomi SU7 Ultra set a new record at Nürburgring in Germany. This was once thought impossible. From SU7's first stunning market performance to Ultra's miracle, let me list a few achievements briefly. SU7 became the best-selling sedan above 200,000 yuan last year, including fuel cars, ranking 8th in overall sales, even ahead of many budget cars. It also topped the resale value chart, becoming the most value-retaining car. In June this year, we launched YU7, achieving even more astonishing results. Within 3 minutes of opening pre-orders, orders exceeded 200,000 units. This number shook the auto industry, drawing skepticism. So we had a bold idea: build a stylish, fun-to-drive SUV designed for the driver, while still accommodating family needs. That's how we decided to create a sporty SUV. Few mainstream brands dared to do this. Usually only luxury makers tried. It was risky, and many colleagues worried. In China's hyper-competitive market, could an SUV sell without giant space? But after countless design iterations, we proved that our interior space rivaled the Model Y, which was enough for family needs. So we made the decision: YU7 would be built. From day one, it carried a do-or-die determination. Let me give you an example of our madness. Originally, the standard version's planned range was 620 kilometers, already excellent, surpassing Model Y. But after long-distance tests, we felt it wasn't enough. Many buy SUVs for road trips, so range anxiety had to be eliminated. But by late 2023, it was too late for a big redesign. What did we do? We killed the 620 kilometers version entirely and rebranded the 835 kilometers long-range Pro as the standard version, at the same price. Range increased by 215 kilometers at no extra cost. When this was proposed, our procurement team nearly fainted. But the competitiveness compared with Model Y was overwhelming. At the launch, I emphasized, this standard version is not an entry-level, not a cut-down version. It's equivalent to others Pro, Max, or Ultra. That's how determined we were. Before SU7's launch, I consulted 23 media friends. 21 of them were pessimistic. Before YU7's launch, I asked again. This time, they were all optimistic. That gave me even more pressure. Would people accept such a different SUV? At the end of YU7's launch, I said these words: YU7 is designed for those who cannot tolerate mediocrity, who always stay ahead of their time, and who shoulder responsibilities while keeping dreams alive. For the mother who sends her child to school in the morning and buys herself flowers on the way. For the father who takes the family camping on weekends but keeps a fishing rod for himself. For those who, amid daily routines, still have stars and seas in their hearts. YU7 is our most heartfelt, hardcore love letter from Xiaomi engineers to all who love life. That's why YU7 had such results at launch. From our last trump card to a brand new miracle, YU7 taught us. When facing difficulties, change your perspective, try boldly, and you may find a different outcome. From SU7 to SU7 Ultra to YU7, Xiaomi Auto has answered doubts with solid results. Meanwhile, China's auto industry is undergoing a massive transformation. Domestic brands are rising in the high-end market. This journey also changed many people around us. For example, my old friend Chen Nian, founder of Vankel, often joins my live streams jokingly. Last year, when I launched SU7, I invited him. He said he couldn't come. He was in Dalian writing a novel, living in seclusion for over a year. He told me that after Vankel's overexpansion, he owed over 1 billion yuan and spent 10 years repaying it, finally clearing it 3 years ago. He was exhausted. But to my surprise, he still came to SU7's launch. The event was a huge success. Later at dinner, everyone was lively except him. He was quiet. Half a year later, he asked to meet. I learned he had actually moved his company to Hangzhou in April, after being inspired by the SU7 launch, and switched fully to live streaming e-commerce, with only 3 or 4 people left. The once 10,000 employee Vankel had returned to 0. I worried whether he could handle it at his age. But he told me confidently, if Lei Jun can change industries and build cars, I can too. At that moment, I thought, 50 is the perfect age to take risks. This year he told me Vankel had become a top 3 menswear seller on Douyin, sometimes number 1, with hundreds of employees again. After 28 years of friendship, I truly admire him. For Xiaomi, the past 15 years have been a complete transformation. From an internet company to a player in smart manufacturing, from phones and consumer electronics to a full ecosystem of people, cars, and homes. Beyond chips and premiumization, the most important thing is that 15 years of down-to-earth effort reshaped Xiaomi's bones and soul. My biggest feeling from these 15 years is this: from confusion to transformation. Sometimes the gap seems as vast as mountains and rivers, sometimes just a thin sheet of glass. As long as you keep working and growing, every person and every team has a chance to change their fate. Thank you all.